Hello all, welcome to the channel. This video is the part of SAP Business One SDK development, and today we're gonna discuss about a bit about DIAPI introduction, and we also gonna learn how you can write a code to connect it with the SAP Business One using DIAPI. And this video gonna be explain all the structure of DIAPI and how it's connected with SAP Business One from the back end, and we're gonna see everything right after this. So, like the whole SAP Business One SDK component looks something like this. Would be a client, a server, and there is basically two server. One is the license service, and the second one is the DI server. The license service is the one which validate your username and password and gonna let you in once you have the license, and it also handle all the licenses for each modules that you be assigned by your super user or the manager, and you can only open the windows that you have licensed for, so that handled by the license service. The another server is here, the SAP Business One database, which is basically exposed by the DI server, which only take the XML data packet packed in the SOAP, like simple object access protocol, and it's only take all the data through this. And this is the whole database is also exposed in the DIAPI. The DIAPI is basically exposing all the services, all the business data level through the DIAPI, and most SAP Business One objects are exposed in this API, and they can be accessed by the external program as well. So for example, if you are developing some third-party application, they are also exposed. So if you are using the Microsoft component like C# and all those things, then you can use them directly. But if you prefer Java, then you have to need the Java connector in order to access the DI API, but that is also possible. Then the second thing in the DI API is basically the whole SDK have basically two kind of APIs. The one is the DI API and another one is the UI API. DI API is basically all the interaction that happen on the service or the data label for the business directly to the database. The another thing is UI API, which is called User Interface API, and this API is basically responsible to access a running application where you can add or modify the existing form. Even you can update or change the layout of whole current system form, or you can also develop your own, or you can add or introduce new events on that one to get something that you want as per the customer requirement. There is also one more thing in this. The whole scenario is called UDO. UDO is basically user-defined objects, and you can define your own business objects, and by that you can just join to the SAP Business One object. So for example, if you want to save some data or do some logic behind the SAP Business One, then you need to create the user-defined tables, register them as a user-defined object, and then you can simply use it as a business object by a DA API to update them, or even you don't even have to write any codes. If you just create a simple form to store some basic data in UDO, we're gonna see that as well. One of the things that is prohibited or you shouldn't do into the SAP Business One is basically you shouldn't execute any commands which gonna modify the data or update the columns, change the table structure. All these things you shouldn't do with the SQL commands. For example, create table, alter columns, delete data, update data. You shouldn't use these commands into the SAP Business One tables, or even the tables you created. So you should create all the tables exposed by the SAP Business One interface, that's called user defined tables, and you should create them only by that, because you don't know how the SAP Business One handle all those things from the background, and it's really not a good idea to create to execute the commands. Even especially also it's prohibited in the normal a table, for example, the item master data table, you don't know which field is affecting where internally, and you can break the whole cycle of SAP Business One if you're going to execute one of the command. And also, if you're, for example, if you execute those commands and you face any problem in the future and you need any support from the SAP Business One, the first thing they're going to check is like if you executed those things by their own tools, and if they find it out, then they're not gonna even support you in the proper way. So this is all the basic thing about the DIAPI. Now we're gonna discuss or we're gonna see how we can create application to make a connection with the SAP Business One using DIAPI code. So let's start. So you can, for the development, we're gonna use the Visual Studio. So if you don't have the Visual Studio right now, you can download their community version for free, of course, from the Microsoft website. It's free, of course. You can just download them, or if you have license, then you can use the professional one as well. And once you install all the Visual Studio or you created the environment, then you can simply create Windows Form application. You can just select Windows Form application from here. I already created one. So once you added the project into your solution, that's how it looks like. This is your project. This is one of the standard form that is added by the Visual Studio by itself. So you select this form. We're gonna change it to the name with the TI connection, right? And that's how it's gonna look. Now we're gonna add some of the tools, some of the control. So we're gonna need two buttons for sure. So we're gonna add two buttons in here. One would be connect, another would be disconnect. So this would be connect, and we can change the text name of this one as well. Gonna make it a bit bigger. You can change the name of this as a button connect. It's always a good idea to give the specific name, is give the control name with the purpose that control is doing, so that it's easy for you even to use them into the code, because once the project getting bigger, you're not gonna remember everything. If you're gonna give the button as a button 1 and button 2, you cannot just directly see them. Then there are the few things that taken from the Visual Studio. So we're gonna use for the SAP Business One connection. There are some things that we need. So we're gonna use a label and a text box, right? So these two things we're gonna add now, and there's a label. So first thing we're gonna need in here is called server. Label you can leave with any name that unless you are using them technically. So I'm just gonna leave them as it is. Then this would be my server. I'm gonna just copy that and paste it. So the second input that SAP Business One needs is called uh, DB server type, right? Server type. Let's move it a bit here. Okay. Now that thing would be the company database name of the SAP Business One in which you want to connect it, right? The fourth thing would be the username, definitely the SAP username, basically SAP username, which should be used in order to connect, right? And then the SAP user password. That's username, and that would be password, right? Just gonna make form a bit bigger, right? Just to move these controls a bit. I know the font doesn't look good that much, but yeah, what we can say. So that's how it looks like. Okay. I know it's not looking pretty, but okay. Now, the server type can be a text or the DB name, then the password should be a password kind. So there's a property that you can set, right? You can just sort them by name and you can set them for the password, right? So it's here, like the password character. If you want to add them, then it's here. You can change this use system password character to true in order to see them so that the user cannot see the password in here in the text box, right? You also gonna need I forgot totally, you also gonna need the database credential. So DB username and password. I'm gonna put these control in here now. Okay, so this would be DB username and this would be DB password, right? And this one should also be true. This one cannot be, it's okay, right? Now let's see, this is the txt for the server, so I'm gonna change it with server name, right? Server name, then this would be the server type, but you can just put it as a combo box by the listing of all the server type that we're gonna see later in the future. I will tell you how, but for now we're just gonna use one server type that I have right now installed in my laptop, which is SQL Server 2019 I'm using. So I'm directly gonna put this one. So server type, txt server type. Now this would be the company DB, right? Company DB. Now this one is the txt SAP user, right? txt SAP password, txt DB user, and txt DB password. txt DB password. So now right now I'm gonna give the predefined value of this one. You can just give the predefined value that should be always when the form open in the text. So there should be text here. So you can just write server 2019, right? We're gonna use them later. I also put my passwords in here and the server values, right? So we can just put the server. So I put all the existing values and that should be default into the text box right now. The first one is the server. The second one is the server type. In the server, you have to put the server name in which your SAP Business One is installed. You can see that in the SAP Business One as well. When you log in, you see a login window and there is also a server name in the SAP Business One that you can see. Then the server type, then the company DB name. So in the DB that you want to try to connect, the username of SAP Business One in which you want to log in, the password, the SQL username and SQL password. So all these things are here. Now we're gonna make an event for this button, and we're just gonna use the try catch, right? That's one of the basic thing that we should do. I'm writing the code in the C# in here because I selected the project as a C#, right? But you can also use the Visual Basic if you are good in there, or if you wanna master in that. So that one, like both are almost the same, but with a different structure. They use the same framework and component. They are just the different ways of writing the code in there. So we just gonna give the message if there is error, and this would be the connection error. So we're gonna say okay, or if something happened, then this would be the connection problem which occurred, right? Now let's see. So first of all, you're gonna need a company connection, right? So if you see here, there is no we have to initialize a company, like, because a company is an object that should be initialized, and that company cannot be initialized without referencing to the without referencing to one of the important thing into here. So you have to add a reference in here. So the com reference should be it, right? And so there is basically two ways to add the reference. If you're using the .NET Core project, then you can see once you click on the select add the com component dependency, then you simply search, go to the com and search in this one. You can use both of the libraries, SAP Business One TI API version and SAP Business One UI API version. So you can either use this one, which is available in your com, and it's gonna be loaded, and your program expect that this DLL should be everywhere you're using. Or there is another way to browse those things. That DLL, there is another DLL which is called SAP Business One SDK inside of your SAP Business One, and this DLL will also do the same thing. So either you can use this DLL or this DLL as well. Both of the DLL gonna be in the global cache of the system. It's if the SAP Business One installed, so you don't have to be worried, and you don't have to include them into your project by making it the local dependency. I'm going to use it right now for the com object, but you can use that one as well. The SAP Business One SDK dealer that I just showed you is basically the combination of DI and API or DLL together. So once you added that, right now we have to initialize the SAP Business One company, which is called Business One company, right? And once you initialize that, first thing that we have to do is basically initializing that object with the new keyword. It's gonna refresh every time once you do that. Once you click on that button, then it's gonna create a new connection. So if you don't want to write this SAP Bob all the time, then basically you can just use it here. So it would be using SAP Bob.com, and then you don't have to write them again and again. Now the second thing that we need is basically the server, which is coming from the txt server name, right, with the text. Now another thing that we are using is the company server type, right, that we're gonna need. So it would be DB server type, because all the database is in the DB. So right now, currently I have 2019, so I'm gonna use that one only. So it's Microsoft 2019. Now the third thing would be the company DB name, right, which is coming from txt company DB name from text, right, and then the SAP username, right, and it's coming from txt SAP user, right, dot text, then ocamp dot password, right, which is also coming from another text, then the DB one, right, so DB user, object would be txtdbuser.text, and the last one would be the password of database. So these are the basic things that you're gonna need in order to connect them, right? In order to connect them with the SAP Business One database via DIAPI connection. So once you write all these information, then you have to call a function of that, which is called uh, ocmp.connect, right? And this is a function which return, either it's gonna return the code. So all the values will be in integer. So if this code will be as 0, right? If the code is 0 in this one, then is connected. If it's 0, that means your business one is connected successfully. So you can just give a message that company is connected successfully, right? Something like this. So CP business one DIAPI connection is okay, right? Else, if there is something else and you wanna let the user know that what was the proper error while making the connection and why the connection is not successful, then you can just say that connection is failed because of the, then we using this one you can simply get the last error. So you can just write the get last error code, and this code will help you to search the problem into the Google, so you should know them. And these are the standard SAP Business One codes, right? And then you can also get the description if you can understand and solve them right away. So you can get the last error description as well, and that would be all. So once, let's run and see how it looks like. We're gonna put the debug point in here and check how this, so this is how it forms look like. All the information that we give them, it's gonna be shown in the form. You set the one, and company is sliced, all the values are set up, right? The username and everything. Then it's gonna say if it's connected or not. You get the code in here, and the code is 0. So you just see a message that SAP Business One API is connected successfully, right? And the connection is successful. Now we're gonna write a code to disconnect them, because once the connection is open, you should also know how to disconnect them in the same application. So we're gonna make another event with the Business One disconnect from the DI API of the O company connection, right? So event can be directly created using this one. We again gonna need the try catch. Try catch is one of the best way to handle the exception that occur into your system while runtime, and it can allow you to continue your program without any problem, right? So that's why you should have the exception into your application. Now we're gonna check if the company that we have initialized on the top is connected or not, right? So if it is connected, then you say, okay, now disconnect the company because we are done using that connection and we don't need it anymore. And then you can simply give them indication that, okay, the company is disconnected. Company is disconnected, and just exit. Otherwise, if this would be the case, then you can simply say, okay, hey, you was not connected to the company, anyway, so you don't need to disconnect. And you can simply say them that you are not connected to the company. Please click on connect button. Okay, so now let's check that. And the form is open like this. So if you directly gonna click here, it's gonna check, okay, the form object reference, and then it's gonna say that because the company is not initialized yet, right? So that's why we are getting this error, because the O company is just here without any initialization, and that's why we are having this error. So now first we will connect the company, right? And then we will see, okay, SAP Business One is connected. Now if you try to disconnect them, then it will disconnect and it will give you a proper message that, okay, company is disconnected. So connect, disconnect, right? So that's how you saw how we can create a simple application DIAPI for connection. Create a connection. In the upcoming videos, we're gonna create and do some other normal operations in the SAP Business One using the DIAPI, and we're gonna check them parallelly into the SAP Business One UI and their results as well. For example, creating a business partner from the DIAPI and making the new connection that we already saw, creating new items, updating some of the item information, and all those things in the upcoming videos. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching, and have a nice evening.